Hello and welcome to another scrapbooking process video. Today I'm going to share the process behind this layout, which uses the Winter Glow kit from Mercy Tiara Kits. For this one, I used a dark colored patterned paper background, and I'm going to talk about some tips for how to use a patterned dark background without overwhelming your page. So let's get right into it. Now, I find nighttime photos a little challenging to scrapbook, but that is exactly what I have here today, is a nighttime photo with my daughters and our international student posing in front of a light display of one of the local people in our community who puts on a beautiful light display in their home every year. I'm using the Winter Glow kit from Mercy Tiara Kits, and this is my second page that I've created with that kit. And I am just having a look at what's left in the kit. Obviously, I've only made one other page, so there's plenty left. I have the main kit, the extra pattern paper add-on, I have the cardstock kit, and I have the embellishment kit as well. I thought for a moment of using this paper here. I love this paper. It's from Simple Stories, and it is the highlight of the main kit. I really love that paper, but I'm going to ultimately decide against it. It's coming off as being a little bit too light for the darkness in the background. There's a lot of black in the background, and also because they are backlit, the people in the photo, like the main subjects of the photo, all have this kind of dark, shadowy look to them as well. So for that reason, I don't want such a stark contrast between my photo having so much dark in it and the background being so light. So I'm deciding to use this very dark pattern paper as my background. Now, using dark pattern paper as a background, for some people is a little intimidating. Other people really love to use dark papers. So I'm going to give you some tips for how to use dark pattern paper backgrounds if you're a little hesitant to do so. So my first tip is to tone it down by adding a matte. So adding this craft cardstock matte. Oh boy, I'm making a mistake here, you guys. Did you see what I did? I meant to make to cut that page to 8 to 11.5 by 11.5, so I could have a 1/4 inch border all the way around it. I cut it to 10.5, and then I realized the error of my way. I do have two pieces of each paper, but I've already torn into the other one. So I just went into my stash and got a piece of thin scrap paper. This is Teresa Collins paper from a very, very long time ago. And I'm going to use this piece of paper to do a little bit of surgery on the paper that I just botched. So I am going to glue one piece of paper to that scrap, and then I'm going to very carefully line up the pattern and glue the second piece to that paper too. So then that paper becomes my patch that holds together the paper that I actually want to use. Now I'm going back and cutting this down to the proper size, which is 11.5 by 11.5. It's actually slightly smaller than that, so that my border around the outside edges is just slightly, it's just a smidgen more than a 1/4 inch all the way around. And that just, it doesn't make a huge impact, but some of my patrons there are giving some other ideas of what you could have done. You could have just gone with the smaller size background paper and just had a much larger matting on it. I didn't really want to do that, but that would be an option as well. And you could even use the torn piece and just incorporate that into your page as well. So here I am. I've decided to gut the inside of that craft cardstock that comes from the cardstock add-on for the Winter Glow kit, and I'm going to use the inside of that for some journaling. So I am going to attach this plaid patterned paper, and what I'm doing here is I'm just using my fingers to pull up the edges. I'm trying to soften the fibers of this paper to make it look torn and worn, and it just gives me a little bit of detail, and it also adds a little bit of softness, because when you distress paper like this, you really are emphasizing the fibers, the fibrous nature of paper. and it really does have a much softer look than if you just go with plain cut edges that aren't distressed like this. I'm having a look at all of the beautiful patterns that come in this kit, and it's really hard to choose because there's so many beautiful patterns, but I have narrowed it down to these ones. And in order to soften this page, because right now there's a lot of darkness on it between the darkness in the photo and the darkness on that background, I'm going to be picking out some lighter papers to balance this, to just to give it a little bit of airiness and not look quite so heavy. Now, I definitely want to use one of the frames that comes in this kit. I have frames in the die cut pieces, but I also have chipboard frames to work with. So I've decided to go with at least one of these chipboard frames. Right now, I am courting the idea of using two of them, one as a layer and one to hold my journaling. But ultimately, I couldn't get that looking the way that I wanted it to, so I'm just going to use one of them. Now, I am pulling out my journaling stencil, which is coming soon to a Mercy Tiara Kit shop near you. It's in the works. I've been promising this stencil for so long, but we actually have the means to do it in-house now, so it will actually be happening. I was trying to order it through various different services, and I couldn't get it at a price that would make sense for you and for me. So we're going to be able to create them in-house, which will make a big difference in the cost level of this item. So until you get it, you could use a ruler to make these lines, or you could hand draw them. You could also use a grid card or lined paper for your paper on this kind of an application. Or you could just eyeball it, and journaling doesn't always have to be perfect. I really do like using lines for my journaling though. I am attaching the frame, and then I do have to just make a few trims there to keep the brown paper from showing on the back, like from kind of poking out in the layers. Now I am going to mat this photo, which just again gives a little bit more balance between, we've got like the really dark matting, and then we've got that bright white outlining because I trimmed it with the white showing, and then the contrast with the sky, the night sky as well, right? So that's giving me lots of opportunities to play with light and dark on this page. I do want to break up my journaling. That's quite a big chunk of journaling there. So I am going to put these 3 little snowflake chipboard pieces from the chipboard that came in the embellishment add-on. I'm going to put them in 3 different places on my journaling, and I will journal basically around them. I'm adding a couple of little embellishments right here. It's a little early for adding embellishments. I haven't done my layers yet, but these are popping out at me and I'm wanting to use them. So I'm just placing them in places that I think will work for now, even though I haven't figured out my paper layers yet. Oh, I really love this piece, but it's a little tough to use it as a rectangle. So I'm just going to trim it down so that it's got a little bit of a patterned white edge on it, and I'm using it as an oval instead of as a square. Now this sweater paper is just so cozy. I love the print on it. It looks like a beautiful knit sweater, and the piece that I cut is a little bit too big, so I'm just going to tear it down right here, get rid of that little pointy edge, and that looks really nice. So see how adding that lighter patterned paper just brightens up the whole page. And I'm also going to add this one. This is one of my favorite patterns in the whole kit, so I definitely wanted to use a fairly big piece of it here. I tried to trim this down to about the same size, just a smidgen bigger than the pattern paper that I already had on there. And I really love how you can see those cute little cabins and mountains and whatnot in the background there. I also grabbed this little cabin from the chipboard pieces. And, oh, I really love it. And then there's a little die cut that says freeze in season, and it's green. So I'm trying to keep in mind that green is going to be the main accent color on this one. So it's mostly blue and white with green accents. I'm using my brown marker. This is Early Espresso from Stampin' Up. I don't have many brown markers. I really need to get some more journaling markers. And this one is drying up, so I had to stop using it, and I switched to soft suede, which has a little bit of green undertones in it. I sometimes call it my poop marker because it definitely has a dirty diaper kind of look to it. I'm grabbing a snapshot of my layers here because I'm going to pull it apart so that I can do some proper outlining here. I'm multi-outlining just to make it a little bit darker. This marker is lighter than what I would like to use, so I'm just adding more layers of the outlining to make it a little bit darker. And I did add, even though that Early Espresso marker is running out, I did add that around the outside edges too, just to darken it up a little bit. I am following the photo and I'm using landmarks on my photo. So there were places where you could see little peaks of mountains peeking out. And so I'm just using that as a way to put this paper exactly back where it was before. It's okay if it doesn't go exactly where it was before, but I do kind of want it to look the way that it looked in the photo. That's why I took the photo. So I have popped up my photo with foam adhesive. I didn't narrate it, but I think you might have seen me doing it as I was talking about something else. And that allows my photo to lie flat, even over top of the chipboard piece that I've made to hold my journaling. And I'm running that film strip from 49 and Market that came in the main kit, that big giant film strip. I'm using that as my shelf that's going to anchor everything else. Now, right now, I have two clusters of embellishments. I have the one with the ice skates and the cabin, and then I have the one with the flag that says winter, and then the little sweaters. So those are my two, um, and freezing season is going to go down here by the cabin. I just want to outline this, and I want it to have a little bit more presence on the page. So I'm going to outline it with a white gel pen. I'm using my 8-point gel pen. I have this white gel. It's a jelly roll, and I have it in 10, and I also have it in the standard, which is 8. I'm using the 8 right now, and I just went over it 2 times to give it a little bit of a doodly look. And these are the letter stickers that came in the main kit. I love them. They're thickers and they're from Heidi Swap. They're actually from a summer or travel collection that has a nautical theme, and I just love them with these winter papers. They have this beautiful ombre effect going from very dark brown, dark blue, almost like a navy, to a very, very light blue. And I am going to use a bouncing baseline for my title here to give the title just a little bit more whimsy. So I started with lights and then I'm working backwards. I'm adding holiday and I'm just going to glue that little piece in place so that I can layer the L over top of that die cut piece. And it says holiday lights. I'm not going to outline them. I often will outline my letter stickers, but I think that outlining it is going to take away from the ombre look. I'm going to use one of my acrylic pieces here, but you know what? It just doesn't have enough presence. And I'm thinking maybe I can customize it. I have chosen the glimmery one, and I grabbed a couple of of alcohol markers. These alcohol markers are from Stampin' Up. I have alcohol markers in a couple of different brands, but these are my standard ones that I usually choose when I'm scrapbooking. And the first blue that I chose was just too light. It wasn't really showing up. This one is my Night of Navy markers. Now, these are not at all navy, but they're two different shades. There's a lighter shade and a darker shade. I used the lighter of the two. And that's what I love about the Stampin' Up! Alcohol markers is that they come in pairs, so it's easy to know which ones go with one another because they have the same name. Now that it's blue, that snowflake has just a little bit more presence there. I don't want it to take away from my title. I just want it to fill that little space in front of the H. And I think it does a really good job of doing that and also fits with the theme of being outside at night on a wintry night and being cold. Next, I'm going to glue these little snowflakes in place. Again, these are embellishments that just break up my journaling so I don't have a little wall of text here. My journaling here says, "We visited the brothers' houses on Connaught Avenue. Every year they outdo themselves, transforming their homes into a magical wonderland of twinkling lights and holiday cheer. Strolling through the glow, we were captivated by the beauty of the festive spirit." And I am doing my journaling with a Sharpie pen. Do make sure that if you're writing on a non-slick surface that you use a Sharpie pen and not a Sharpie marker. They are two different things. And a Sharpie marker will bleed into a non-slick surface and create much messier handwriting. Uh, Sharpie markers are designed to be slick surface permanent markers. So they're good for writing on stickers or any other glossy surface. But for your regular journaling, make sure that you're not using a slick surface marker. I only point that out because it's an easy mistake to make to think that you're getting a Sharpie pen when you're really using a Sharpie marker. The L fell off, so I just glued it back in place. The other letters seem to be sticking fairly well. I would like to add a little something else to this page. As I said, I have two clusters developing here, and I would like to have three. You don't have to always have three, but I do like to have three. It gives you that balance, that idea of a visual triangle that guides your eye around the page. So I would like to put something over here on the far right, on the far left-hand corner, but this snowman, who I really loved, he worked better tucked behind the cabin and behind and above the cabin like that. So I put him there. I still need a little something else over on the far left-hand side, but I'll come to that. First, I'm going to cut off some string. I am using Lawn Fawn lawn trimmings for my string these days. I really love this string. I have it in black and I have it in white, and it's just good multi-purpose string for putting on your tags or any other time that you need some string on your scrapbooking page. So I'm just going to have that little tag peeking out from behind my journaling and also behind the little cabin. This little flag says "Let It Snow," and I'm going to tuck it in behind the photo and on top of the film strip. And then I'll add the little mittens, which are also green. So I do have a little bit of that same shade of green in all three of my points of my triangle. Let's add a tree here. That's pretty cute. So we'll tuck that in behind the photo, which is already popped up. So even though it's a piece of chipboard, it does fit under my photo quite nicely. And now we have a lot of green over here on this side. We do have the I Heart Snow. It's actually a I Snowflake Snow, a little piece of chipboard there that's blue, but I wanted to add something else. So I put one of those blue brads right down beside the tree. I also put the brads, it's in 4 times the speed, so you might have missed it. I put the brads in 2 other places so that there's basically brads in each of my 3 locations as well. So now we have a nice little visual triangle coming around. Now I would like to add some splatter, and you'll notice that this background paper, the Plaid by Simple Stories, it does come pre-distressed with some splatter, but I just wanted to add a little bit more. So this is my little splatter case. I use this little tin for mixing splatter. I use it as a storage tin and also as a palette, and it holds my brush and also my gouache. So all I have to do is add some water to get some splatter. I'm using a very fine brush that as I said, I just keep this in my splatter tin. And I am adding splatter to the 3 places that Simple Stories had already put the splatter. And then I'm also adding a little bit of splatter onto the layers of my layout as well. And that just adds just a little bit of a messier look, but because it's in white and many times it's tone on tone, like very light blue with white splatters on it, it doesn't grab your attention. It's just more of a little fine detail. And that just adds a little bit more to that splattery look, and it emphasizes my 3 corners of this layout of the visual triangle. So we have the corner that I started at, and then this one, and then back down here to this one. And that should guide your eye all the way around the page. Thanks so much for watching. Before we jump into the final photos, I want to give a quick shout out to my amazing Patreon supporters. These folks truly help make this channel happen, so I'm grateful for each and every one of them. Tiaras get early ad-free access to all of my process videos, as well as real-time unedited versions of my layouts, often in the form of live streams. And they get exclusive behind-the-scenes content from my scrap room, my kind of behind-the-scenes process, along with sneak peeks into the Kit Club as well. I'm Mercy Tiara, and I love sharing my full creative process with you, including all the little decisions and lessons learned along the way. Be sure to check out the links that you see on the screen here, as well as in the information section below, to dive into my collection of process videos. I hope that you enjoyed this page, and as always, stay tuned for more scrappy inspiration. Until next time, take care and have a really great scrappy week.